came third in the election. Tinubu knew he wouldn't win. In the strongly worded statement, Lawal said, I have resisted that I did this for two reasons. The first being that as an active player in the drama, I needed time to analyze and digest the data that led to the outcomes, so I could arrive at information about who or what he actually is. Ordinarily, sound ethics and morality should have convinced him to voluntarily excuse himself from participation in the election. But this notwithstanding, I believe he still has time and opportunity to save himself this public humiliation and embarrassment to his person, both locally and internationally, by resigning so that he can give more attention to his health. After all, no one knows about the truism of these severely embarrassing and humiliating exposures about his person than the man himself. Leadership is all about integrity, sound pedigree, trustworthiness, and the ability to unite and instill hope and confidence in the people one seeks to lead. In these qualities, most Nigerians are in total agreement that Bola has them in very, very short supply indeed. But now, 6 months down the line, the chicken has come home to roost, as Nigerians have come to the realization that we have not got what we deserve politically. Confusion and despondency are now all over the nation, as no one trusts the government to do what it says it will do. No one trusts the leader, and no one trusts appointees who are appointed as rewards for their roles in the election, or who had in the past helped him in his life. All right, this is a long one. I actually wanted to finish it to the end because there was something very key to this conversation where the spokesperson from the APC actually tackled him seriously. All right, but let's begin. We'll actually get to that as we get into the conversation. Now, is a serious. It looks like an unleashed somehow someone could actually lay claims that it's coming from an aggrieved heart, so to say, like was laid against it, that this is just something that is coming from someone who is aggrieved because it wasn't made up to run with Tinubu. What's your take on this?
Firstly, I would want to say that I would have taken the entire lines, hook, line, and sinker. But I would not, like an analyst, I would always want to look at the messenger himself. Obache Lawa, if you don't forget, if you have forgotten, let's be reminded, used to be the former SGF.
Yes.
And we know how he unceremoniously left the scene because of the grass cutter contract and all of that. And we remember the infamous statement he made. Who is the presidency? Well, at some point in time, but fell out of power for one reason or the other, has these claims to make and say categorically that Tinubu, the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu didn't win the elections. I think it leaves us to a lot of questions, because whether we accept it or not, I think if I make this statement very clearly in a press release, by now I think the government, one way or the other, the civil services and all other security agencies should be asking me questions. But because I think to a large extent, nobody's going to be asking Bachelor questions because they believe that what we should be doing at a time in a country that is nosediving, that needs urgent attention. So when you look at the quality of persons, we're talking about ministers who are here to say whether they went to service or they didn't go for service. People that are still going to court here and going in and out of court on a daily basis. These are the ministers that want to salvage the country that is in this kind of dead situation. So whether we like it or yes, this is a very, very precarious situation, a very, very important call. However, I clearly started this analysis by talking about the personality of the messenger. Let it not be that anyone is taking sides, but we're looking at the things holistically, the way they are. And whether you accept it or yes, ask yourself, we saw what transpired in Rivers State. I've said it over and over, not just on this forum, not on this platform, in lots of platforms, where we see where people clearly, local government chairmen walking into police stations, tearing ballot buses, maiming people. We saw people beating drums and telling you if you're not coming out to make votes in this direction, don't come out in this direction. We saw a lot. Till today, the returning officer of a change local government, till today, is yet to be ascertained by ENEC or by Rivers State government who the person is. ENEC said they didn't employ him, Rivers State government said they didn't know him. But results were released from that place. And these are not serious issues enough to say, let one or two things we should have waited. Upon this strength, I think it is very clear and simple that the allegations or supposed allegations as raised by Babata Lawa are not just allegations, but they are very serious ones that people should look into. Was there not a party called APC before the election? Were there not party members in the APC before the election? Were there not stakeholders in the APC for the election? That at the end of the election, somebody from the People's Democratic Party, possibly the leader of the People's Democratic Party in the River State, has to become the representative of River State in the new executive as an appointed minister. Whether we accept it or not, these questions beg for answers. They stare us all in the face. And I have said it without mincing words. When INEC wanted to call up these results, INEC told us some minutes to 10 that everybody should go home, that they are going to look at all the allegations as raised by Dino Malaya and others. But in a Nicodemus manner, we saw that the result was announced, people were sleeping, and by the end of the day, we have seen the chairs on the streets. We have seen the applause on the streets. How well the people, it has reached the people that this is their decision as a people, or decision of the oligarchies. Whether we accept it or whether we say it or not, this is what our reality is telling us today. Do not forget, the Nigerian election has caused ripple effect world over. There have been conversations even as far away Cameroon, far away Kenya, far away South Africa, even in the United States, Russia as it is, and France, about Nigerian elections. Upon that news, don't forget, just 3.5 hours, in case people are not aware, just 3.5 hours after the CSU brought out their statement and showed up their result on public space. Because we can come out to say this person is making allegations, it's an alleged, it's not an alleged. We've seen the high-handedness of governance to a large extent. But just 3.5 hours after the CSU came out with a judgment and all, we saw that the UK government brandished almost all our nurses to start. They put them through a rigorous process of going through another test. And anybody that doesn't want to go through that test has to leave for one reason or the other. These tests are going to cost money on the grounds of there's the level of fraudulent belief from our leadership. Whether we accept it or yes, whoever calls it whatever, make excuses for all I care. The indices on the ground do not portend anything good for the Nigerian people. Look at where we are today on petroleum matters. We are talking about a $1.5 billion again to be borrowed on an administration for oil matters where we have not even explained or justify the ones we have borrowed to revitalize the already dying refineries that will not even produce up to 100%, even if they are revitalized with those humongous billions and millions of dollars that have been borrowed and expended into them. Upon that note, we are borrowing another to it. And upon the borrowing another to it, we are seeing the kind of appointments that we are seeing today. That does not present any form of hope. Policy direction does not give us any form of hope for a better tomorrow. Look at where the Nigerian economy is today. We started this discussion. When I came in, you greeted me with the fact, how was the economy? How was I faring with the economy? And I told you, the economy, you don't need to ask any other person. You can use yourself as a case study to analyze or ascertain the level of economic growth and the policy direction that we have taken as a people. Whether we accept it or yes, the messenger might have his issues, but the message is very clear. The message is very, 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 very deep. The message is very, very, very damning. If we go through this trajectory like this, without anybody checkmating any of the excesses, where lies the hope of the Nigerian populace tomorrow? What is the future? What does the future portend tomorrow? And what is the hope of the coming elections? We have elections we have elections in other states. What is the hope of this? I think Ondo and Imo State. What is the hope of the people of these spaces that want to the voters? What is the hope of the voters? We are looking at a system that is clearly dying in our hands, and we are all making excuses, whether we like it or yes. The messenger has its issues, but the message is potent, and we have to look at the message. Is the election, is the result we have today, the result that the Nigerian people had decided to have? We saw what transpired in Brazil. We saw the happiness that people had there because, to an extent, this was how it happened. We saw how the result was released in Nigeria. We saw the excitement on the street. Let us be our own judges. So for me, I thank God you will go back to the second part of this discussion, looking at the response, which gives us another insight to the response from Anambra State. But let's leave it up until that time. Because for me, so far, so good. Both the messenger, the message, and the accused, they all have their issues. But be that as it may, the issues are clear, and they're staring us all in our very eyes.
All right, thank you very much. That was a very apt reaction to the situation on ground.